The Silent Colony. The red sun of Kepler 442 bits cast long shadows across the mining settlement as Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the main habitat dome. 3 years had passed since the last supply ship from the inner colonies had arrived, and 18 months since their final communication with the Galactic Council had gone unanswered. The mining equipment still hummed in the distance, extracting precious metals from the planet's crust, but everyone knew they were living on borrowed time. Sarah turned as footsteps echoed behind her. Dr. Marcus Webb approached, his weathered face showing the strain of their situation. As the colony's chief scientist and communications officer, Marcus had spent countless hours trying to reach anyone who might help them. His gray hair had grown longer in recent months, and his usually steady hands trembled slightly as he carried another data pad filled with unanswered transmissions. "Any word from the Outer Rim Patrol?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer from Marcus's expression. "Nothing, Commander. It's been 42 days since we detected any Galactic Council vessels in this sector." Marcus set down the data pad and stared out at the horizon, where dust storms were beginning to form. "The automated beacon on the trade route went silent last week. I think we have to face the reality that we're completely cut off." Sarah nodded grimly. The Kepler 442 bits mining colony had been established during humanity's expansion into the outer territories, back when Earth was eager to prove itself to the established galactic civilizations. The Galactic Council had welcomed human settlements, seeing them as useful for mining operations in dangerous or remote locations. Humans were expendable labor, perfect for the jobs other species didn't want to do. Elena Vasquez entered the observation area, her security uniform bearing new scorch marks from the morning patrol. As head of colony security, Elena had been tracking increasing signs of alien raider activity in nearby systems. Her dark eyes held the focused intensity of someone who had seen too much combat, and her military bearing never relaxed, even in what should have been safe spaces. "Commander, we've got a problem," Elena reported, pulling up a holographic display from her wrist unit. Long-range sensors picked up 3 unidentified vessels moving through the asteroid field. Configuration matches the ships that hit the Proxima mining station last month. Sarah felt her stomach drop. The attack on Proxima had been devastating. Over 300 colonists had been killed or captured, and the entire facility had been stripped bare. The raiders had left behind only debris and a message broadcast across local frequencies, warning other human settlements to abandon their posts or face the same fate. "The Kethvar raiders," Marcus said quietly. "They're getting bolder." The Kethvar were a species that had been cast out from the Galactic Council decades ago for their aggressive expansion and disregard for established territory agreements. They had turned to piracy and raiding, targeting the most vulnerable settlements on the galactic frontier. Human colonies were their preferred targets because they knew no one would come to help. Tom Bradley, the colony's youngest engineer, came running into the observation deck. At 24, Tom had been fresh out of the Mars Technical Institute when he volunteered for the Outer Rim assignment. His enthusiasm for exploration and discovery had kept morale up during their isolation, but now his face showed pure fear. "Commander Chen, you need to see this immediately," Tom said, breathing heavily. The communication array just intercepted a transmission. "The Kethvar aren't just passing through. They're planning to hit us within the next 72 hours. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of responsibility for the 800 men, women, and children who called this remote world home. When she opened them again, her expression had hardened into the resolve that had earned her command of this outpost. "Show me everything we intercepted," she ordered. The group moved quickly to the communications center, where Tom pulled up the decoded alien transmission on the main screen. The Kethvar language was harsh and guttural, but the translation software provided by the Galactic Council made their intentions terrifyingly clear. Target confirmed. Human mining facility. Minimal defenses detected. Estimated resource value high. Strike force deployment in 71 hours. Expect full strip mining operations. No survivors required. Elena studied the tactical data that accompanied the transmission. 3 heavy cruisers, multiple fighter escort craft. Commander, our defensive systems weren't designed to handle this level of assault. We have mining lasers we could jury-rig as weapons, but against military-grade shields. I know, Sarah interrupted. Marcus, I want you to send another emergency transmission to Earth Command. Full priority burst, all frequencies. Commander, you know Earth Command stopped responding to Outer Rim distress calls after the budget cuts. The Galactic Council handles frontier security now, and they've made it clear they don't consider human settlements a priority. Send it anyway. Use the old military emergency codes. If there's anyone out there, anyone at all who remembers that humans don't abandon their own, they need to know what's happening here. Marcus worked at his console with renewed urgency, his fingers flying across the controls as he composed what might be their final message to Earth. The quantum communicator hummed to life, sending their desperate plea across the vast distances of space at faster-than-light speeds. Emergency transmission to Earth Command. This is Kepler 442 Bits Mining Colony. Commander Sarah Chen commanding. We are under imminent threat of attack by Kethvar raiders. 800 civilian lives at risk. Galactic Council forces have abandoned this sector. Requesting immediate assistance. We are humanity's children, and we refuse to die forgotten in the dark. The transmission launched into space, carrying with it the hopes and fears of everyone on the colony. In the silence that followed, the colonists went about their preparations. Elena organized defensive positions and weapons distribution. Tom worked to boost power to their improvised shield generators. Marcus continued monitoring all frequencies for any sign of response. Hours passed, then days. The Kethvar ships moved closer, their approach tracked by the colony sensors. Families said goodbye to each other. Messages were recorded for loved ones on distant worlds. The mining equipment was shut down and converted into barricades. On the 3rd day, as the alien ships entered the outer system, something unexpected happened. Tom was monitoring the long-range sensors when he detected energy signatures that made him do a double-take. Commander Chen, you need to get to the communications center right now. Tom called over the intercom, his voice carrying a mixture of confusion and excitement. Sarah, Elena, and Marcus rushed to the communications center, where Tom was staring at his displays with wide eyes. What is it? Sarah demanded. I'm detecting massive energy signatures moving through the outer system. Multiple contacts, military configuration, approaching from the direction of Earth space. Tom looked up at his commander with disbelief. Commander, I think someone actually answered our call. Marcus pushed past Tom to examine the sensor readings. That's impossible. Earth hasn't had deep space military assets in this sector for over 5 years. The Galactic Council made them withdraw all forces beyond the inner colonies. Then explain this, Tom said, pointing to the display. 27 distinct contacts, all showing Earth military transponder codes. And Commander, they're not just any ships. These are reading as heavy cruisers, battleships, even a dreadnought-class vessel. That's more firepower than I've ever seen in one place. Elena studied the tactical display with growing amazement. Look at their formation. Perfect military precision. These aren't hastily assembled rescue ships. This is a battle fleet. Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Can you establish communication with them? Already trying, Marcus replied, working frantically at his console. Signal strength is weak at this distance, but I'm getting a response. Incoming transmission now. The communication system crackled to life, and a voice came through the static. It was human, unmistakably human, speaking with the crisp authority of military command. Kepler 442 Bits Mining Colony. This is Admiral Victoria Cross of the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your transmission. Hold your position and maintain communication silence. Help has arrived. The 4 colonists stood in stunned silence. Earth had not only heard their plea but had responded with what appeared to be the largest human military force ever assembled. Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes as she realized that somewhere in the vast bureaucracy of Earth, someone had remembered the promise that humanity never abandons its own. Admiral Cross, this is Commander Sarah Chen. We have 800 civilians and hostile forces approaching our position. Thank you for coming. We thought we were alone. Commander Chen, you were never alone. Earth protects its children, no matter how far they travel among the stars. We'll speak more after we've dealt with your visitors. Cross out. The transmission ended, leaving the colonists to watch their sensors as the impossible became reality. Earth had not forgotten them. Earth had not abandoned them. And now, as alien raiders approached their small world with death and destruction, they would learn that humans had been preparing for this moment longer than anyone could have imagined. Outside, the red sun continued its journey across the alien sky, but for the first time in months, the colonists looked up at the stars with hope instead of fear. Help was coming, and it was coming with the full fury of humanity unleashed. Earth's answer. 12 light-years away from the Kepler colony, Admiral Victoria Cross stood on the bridge of the ESF Retribution, humanity's first and only dreadnought-class warship. At 52, Victoria had spent her entire adult life preparing for this moment. Her steel-gray hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her pale blue eyes held the cold calculation of someone who had studied every major space battle in galactic history. The bridge around her hummed with quiet efficiency as her crew monitored the approach to the Kepler system. 26 other ships moved in perfect formation around the Retribution, each one a testament to 20 years of secret development and preparation. While the Galactic Council had demanded that Earth withdraw its military forces from the frontier, they had never asked what Earth was building in the hidden shipyards of the outer solar system. Captain Jake Morrison approached from the tactical station, his combat uniform bearing the insignia of the 1st Terra Strike Division. At 38, Jake was the youngest captain in the fleet, but his record in combat simulations was flawless. His dark skin bore the ritual scars of someone who had earned his rank through merit rather than politics, and his movements carried the fluid grace of a natural warrior. Admiral, we're receiving updated intelligence from our scout ships. The Kethvar force consists of 3 heavy cruisers and approximately 40 fighter craft. They're maintaining standard raider formation, expecting minimal resistance. Victoria smiled grimly. They're about to learn that humans are full of surprises. What's the status of Operation Lazarus? All ships report ready, Admiral. The new weapon systems are fully charged, and targeting solutions are locked. The AI tactical network is online and coordinating fleet movements. As if summoned by their conversation, a holographic figure materialized on the bridge. Prometheus, Earth's most advanced artificial intelligence, appeared as a tall figure in flowing robes, its face shifting between features of various human ethnicities. The AI had been designed not just for tactical coordination, but to represent the best of human diversity and ingenuity. Admiral Cross, Prometheus said, its voice carrying harmonics that somehow managed to sound both synthetic and warmly human. I have completed analysis of the Kethvar attack patterns based on data from previous raids. Their tactical doctrine relies on overwhelming isolated targets with superior numbers, while avoiding any engagement that might result in significant losses to their own forces. In other words, they're bullies who run when faced with real opposition, Jake observed. Precisely, Captain Morrison. However, we should not underestimate their combat effectiveness. The Kethvar have been successful raiders for decades because they choose their targets carefully and strike with decisive force. Victoria nodded, which is exactly why we're going to give them something they've never encountered before. Prometheus, initiate stealth approach protocol. I want us to be invisible until we're ready to announce our presence. Across the fleet, advanced stealth systems activated. The ships seemed to fade from sensors, their hulls absorbing electromagnetic radiation, while their engines ran silent. This was technology that Earth had developed in secret, inspired by the necessity of protecting human interests in a galaxy that seemed determined to ignore them. As the fleet approached the Kepler system, they could see the Kethvar raiders preparing for their attack. The alien ships were larger than human vessels, built for intimidation as much as destruction. Their dark hulls bristled with weapons, and their formations spoke of predators circling wounded prey. General Kethtar, commander of the raiding force, stood in the command center of his flagship. As a member of the warrior caste of his species, Kethtar was nearly 8 feet tall, his reptilian features scarred from decades of combat. His ships had successfully raided over 40 human settlements, and he had come to view humans as weak creatures who died easily and rarely fought back. "Begin the attack," Kethtar commanded in his native tongue. "Target the power generators first, then the communication arrays. We want the humans alive long enough to see their world stripped bare." The Kethvar ships moved toward the planet, their weapons charging for the opening bombardment. It was then that space itself seemed to tear open around them. The Earth fleet materialized like ghosts becoming solid, their stealth systems deactivating simultaneously as their weapons locked onto their targets. The Retribution emerged directly above the Kethvar flagship, its massive hull dwarfing the alien cruiser. "This is Admiral Victoria Cross of the Earth Defense Fleet." Victoria's voice boomed across all frequencies, transmitted in the Kethvar language, as well as standard galactic common. "You are trespassing in human-protected space and threatening human civilians. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Kethtar stared at the tactical display in disbelief, where moments before there had been empty space, now showed 27 human warships in perfect attack formation. The largest ship was of a class he had never seen before, bristling with weapons that his sensors couldn't fully analyze. "Impossible," he hissed. "Humans have no deep space fleet. The Galactic Council records show." "General," his tactical officer interrupted, "I'm reading massive energy buildup from all human vessels." "Admiral, these are not the mining ships and converted freighters we encountered before. These are purpose-built warships, and their technology readings are unsettling." Victoria waited exactly 30 seconds for a response. When none came, she turned to Jake. "Captain Morrison, you may fire when ready." The battle that followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The Earth fleet moved with precision that seemed almost choreographed, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be and what they would do. Prometheus coordinated their movements while simultaneously analyzing Kethvar tactics and adapting in real time. The human weapons were like nothing the galaxy had seen before. Instead of the crude energy blasters common to most civilizations, Earth had developed particle beam weapons that could slice through the heaviest armor. Their missiles were guided by AI systems that learned from each engagement, becoming more accurate with every shot. But it was the tactical coordination that truly shocked the Kethvar. Human ships moved like a single organism, covering each other's flanks while concentrating fire on priority targets. When the aliens tried to surround individual ships, they found themselves flying into carefully prepared kill zones. Kethtar watched in growing horror as his raiders were systematically destroyed. Ships that had terrorized human colonies for years were torn apart by weapons they couldn't match and tactics they couldn't counter. His own flagship, which had survived dozens of battles, was taking damage from multiple directions as human ships surrounded it. "All ships, retreat immediately," he ordered, abandoning any thought of completing the raid. "Return to base coordinates. We are outmatched." But Victoria had no intention of letting them escape. "Prometheus, implement Pursuit Protocol Delta. I want every ship that attacked human civilians to face justice." The AI's voice carried a note of satisfaction. "Implementing immediately, Admiral. No hostile vessel will escape this system." What the Kethvar didn't know was that Earth had spent 20 years studying every species in the galaxy, learning their weaknesses and developing counters to their technology. The stealth systems that had allowed them to appear from nowhere also prevented the raiders from accurately targeting them for escape jumps. One by one, The HFY ships were disabled or destroyed. Those that surrendered were taken prisoner, their crews to be turned over to the Galactic Council for trial. Those that continued fighting were shown no mercy. HFY's flagship was the last to fall. As his bridge filled with smoke and his weapons failed, he found himself face to face with a human boarding party led by Captain Morrison. The humans moved through his ship with the efficiency of soldiers who had trained for every possibility. "General HFY," Jake said, his translator rendering his words in the alien's language, "you are under arrest for crimes against civilian populations and violation of interstellar law." "This is impossible," HFY repeated, his reptilian features twisted with disbelief. "Humans are weak. You have no military power. The galaxy knows this." Jake smiled, and there was something in that expression that made the alien general step back. "The galaxy knew what we wanted them to know. Earth protects its children, General. And we've had 20 years to prepare for species like yours." As the prisoners were secured and the disabled ships prepared for salvage, Victoria opened communications with the Kepler colony. "Commander Chen, this is Admiral Cross. The threat to your colony has been eliminated. All hostile forces have been neutralized or captured." Sarah's voice came back filled with emotion. "Admiral, I don't know how to thank you. We thought Earth had forgotten about us." "Commander, Earth never forgets its children. What you've seen today is just the beginning. For too long, humanity has been seen as weak and expendable by the galactic community. That perception ends now." Victoria looked out at the stars, knowing that news of this battle would spread across the galaxy within days. The other species would learn that humans were no longer content to be victims, that Earth had been preparing in secret for the day when it would take its rightful place among the stars. "Prometheus," she said quietly, "send a message to Earth Command. Operation Lazarus has been successful. Phase 2 may begin." The AI nodded. "Message sent, Admiral. I believe the galaxy is about to discover that humanity's greatest strength was never our technology or our numbers. It was our refusal to abandon those who depend on us." As the Earth fleet began the journey home, escorting the rescued colonists to safety, Victoria reflected on the years of preparation that had made this moment possible. While other species had seen humans as primitive and weak, Earth had been studying, learning, and building. They had turned their perceived weakness into their greatest strength, allowing the galaxy to underestimate them while they prepared for the day they would prove themselves. The HFY had learned too late that humans weren't born to run. They were raised to hunt. And now, as word of Earth's hidden fleet spread across the stars, every species in the galaxy would have to reconsider what they thought they knew about humanity. The age of human expansion had begun, not through conquest or domination, but through the simple promise that Earth would always answer when its children called for help. And in a galaxy full of species that had forgotten what loyalty meant, that promise would prove more powerful than any weapon.